Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to, that's not getting old yet for me anyway.
Yeah.
Is it getting old for you?
No, I think we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
I'm liking it.
Welcome to the Second Button Podcast. This is episode 8. We're covering season 2, episode 3 of Seinfeld. It's called The Jacket.
The Jacket,
But
yep.
on the DVDs, it's episode 5.
Okay. What's episode 3 then?
Episode 3 was, I didn't write it down, so.
That's so
I'll have to
weird.
look. Yeah, I don't know why that one.
Yeah.
I think in season 1, there's a couple, and then we figured it was to play the story more streamlined on the DVD, but I don't know what the reason was for this one. So,
yeah. Did it, I guess which one does it list like on Wikipedia or whatever is episode?
IMDb is the same as what we're watching on Netflix.
Okay, so Netflix is the right one. Weird that they switch it around on DVD.
Yeah, I still got to find a reason for that. I haven't found a reason yet. I looked it up and couldn't find anything.
Who knows?
I'll check again.
But this one, we're going over The Jacket. That episode.
Yeah.
So, the episode starts out, with a stand-up bit. Jerry, he's talking about, how he hates clothes, buying clothes, because, and having to pick out clothes, stuff like that. He talks about how, in the future, outfits are going to, they're all going to be the same. Kind of like how in the, futuristic space movies, everybody wears, the jumpsuits, silver jumpsuits or whatever.
Silver jumpsuit, silver boots, silver belt.
Yep.
Done.
Easy. Good to go. It's I don't know if you ever watch minimalism videos or minimalist videos and stuff like that. I think it was like a craze back in 2014 or so. I started picking
I've watched a few.
I started picking up on it. I guess with on Netflix, there's a minimalism or minimalists, I think is the thing. And then the Marie Kondo kind of thing. It's like, oh, does this bring me joy? Should I, whatever.
Yeah, I'll spin on it.
Yeah. I like that idea. And I think I'm like, 8 years too late to I started watching some of those. I'm like, oh, this is great. It's kind of like what I was selling a bunch of guitar stuff, and I still have a lot of it, as you can see, but I did sell a lot of it. And some of these videos that they're going over, because you watch one thing on YouTube and then it's going to give you something, you might like this or whatever suggestions. A lot of them kind of go over the same idea of clothing for minimalism, not just having fewer clothes, but having maybe the same shirt 5 times.
Yeah.
The same jeans, maybe 2 pairs of black jeans. And
how about 6 pairs of the same glasses, just different colors?
Yeah. So it's that's an idea of minimalism, but maximalism. Because
maximizing your minimalism.
Yeah. I recently bought a pair of glasses. I fixed the old one, or the old ones, just threw them away. But these are new ones. I only got 1 pair. Sorry, Andrew. I didn't get 6.
Awful.
But
yeah, so the idea is to have 5 black shirts. Is that the idea?
Yeah, or maybe dark gray or whatever. But you don't have to think about what you're going to wear. It's is this clean? And that's it.
Before we moved last year, I went through my t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And because I would why move the t-shirts if you're not going to wear them? So I went through them, and I didn't count what I had beforehand. I just kind of went keep, throw.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones I kept 75 t-shirts, and I was like, I could change a shirt every single day for 2.5 months and not wear the same t-shirt twice. So I have to do it again.
Yeah.
And it's 30 of them were Star Wars and 30 of them were band shirts, and then a couple random stuff in the middle.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. I think I got maybe 20. And if you count work,
I thought as well.
Which I guess if you count work shirts, because it was a couple of years ago, maybe during when I wasn't working during COVID, whatever, blah blah blah, back in 2020, I was just going finding I should do stuff, and I was cleaning out closets and donating clothes or throwing stuff away. There's stuff that's these jeans are ripped apart and they're 4 inches too small. I'm not gonna wear these. Or are
you 4 inches too big? What's the answer?
Yeah. Or if I do lose weight, it's gonna be increments of 2 inches maybe or an inch at a time. Not gonna be 4 inches overnight.
Yeah.
So I'll cross that bridge and get. I don't think I'm ever gonna fit the size 29 jeans again.
No.
We're sitting around 32, 34s now. I would like to get back in the 30s, but maybe I'll scratch off the number and Jerry and just say I'm wearing 29s. was like, Brian, you know that fat ass of yours ain't fitting in 29s anymore. But hey, I'm not, not 22 anymore. But anyways, so the idea is just like he was kind of making the joke of like, oh yeah, simple clothes, da. And that's kind of the idea of like the minimalism. I'm like, oh, I like that. Just like having fewer, clothes, or they're all the same. You don't have to be like, which graphic tee am I going to wear today? It's like, no, here's a black shirt, or this one's dark gray. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I remember that with hoodies too. I have a bunch of hoodies. And I'm like, I don't need 7 hoodies. I can just have 2, maybe. Like just get rid of some.
One that zips up and one that pulls over. That's it.
Yeah. Like my Spider-Man one I'm wearing.
There you go. Yeah. So
the joke leads into more clothing, which is at the clothing store.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a deleted scene I saw on the DVD, and it was deleted for a reason. It was Jerry in the changing room, and he's like, has a curtain pulled around his neck. He's yelling to Elaine, and he's wearing these great big, almost like MC Hammer parachute pants but they're dress pants. And that's the way it starts. But when we actually watch the episode on Netflix, it starts with Jerry saying, I've seen enough.
Yeah,
I've seen enough. So there was a lead up to that bit, but they cut it from the show because it didn't really.
It was a little too goofy, maybe.
Yeah, it didn't seem to work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's funny. Yeah, it opens and they're, it's weird. And the one thing I'm like, why is he shopping with Elaine? Is it just? That's one we haven't even gotten to the episode yet. But it's like they're opening at the clothing store. I'm like, why?
He brought her for the female perspective.
Maybe, yeah. But anyways, so the guy, he said like, oh, I think I've seen enough. And the guy's like, oh, let me check to see if there's anything in the back. And then they start going and this back and forth, Jerry and Elaine. It's like, why is there a back? It's like, there's never anything in the back. And then Jerry's like, why don't they make a whole store that's just the back?
Yeah. You walk in the front and you're in the back.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Do you ever work the floor at work, or you're more in the back?
I'm all over there. And that's one thing I did want to say. It's like, sometimes it is worth asking if there's any more in the back or other things. Sometimes they're just going to blow you off. I'm like, no, it's all out here.
I'll ask if I'm not look at the shelf and there's like, I know there's another option and I don't see it right there. I might ask them if it's out back, or if there's a spot in the shelf and it's empty. Say, do you have any more out back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can always, or if there's different sizes or whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for those size 29 jeans, you can ask them, any more in the back? But it is worth seeing, because like there might be one or two in the back that they don't have space for, or it's like we can't justify a whole shelf space for one thing. So,
or someone just came in, 3 people bought the same thing, and now there's none on the shelf.
Yeah,
so.
Or they haven't restocked it yet. So I do work in retail. I know, humble brag. But it's kind of worth asking. You're like, okay, let's check it out to see if we do, because most places want to get rid of the shit that they have and sell it, because that's how they make money.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're doing the whole thing. It's like, oh, there's never anything back there. And then, they're going on about, Elaine mentions like, oh, don't forget about, the dinner this weekend or this Friday or whatever with her father, Alton Bennis. And
someone recognizes the book in her arm, and Jerry's like, that's her father.
Yeah.
Which I would kill him if he did that to me.
But yeah, so it's like, so it kind of sets it up that it's Elaine's dad is a writer. He's, known at least. And then, Jerry's kind of setting up that he doesn't want to go.
He's intimidated because he's a famous,
esteemed writer. Yeah.
Yeah, smarter than him.
And the whole thing, he's like, I don't want to go without it, go and hang out with people that are, too smart. He's like, I prefer the company of dimwits, which is
yeah.
It's like he's easier to entertain, probably. He's as the joke man, you can just go up there and tell like, knee slappers like, aha, and then everybody's like, ah.
Yeah, you hang out with dumber people, you look smarter yourself. That's the
and so Elaine's got the little rub. It's like, oh, that's why we never worked out, because she's not like the dumb girls that Jerry dates. So
yeah, she's funny. Too smart for him.
Yeah. So it's a good back and forth that they have, and so as they're talking, Jerry spots a suede jacket that he likes. It's the most perfect jacket. He likes it. Elaine likes it. And then they start looking at the cost of the jacket. And that's where, it's maybe not so perfect. And then, so he's, talking about, whether or not I should get it. Elaine's got a couple things like, oh, how much is it? And like, oh, I got a ballpark of how much it is. And then they're doing like the baseball things like, no, you don't know the ballpark. The team has moved or whatever.
Yeah, the team has left the city.
Yeah. So it's expensive.
Relocated. The team's relocated.
Mm-hmm. They never actually say how much it is.
No, and that kind of helps. I like in Seinfeld, I find they do that. They don't mention cost and they kind of leave that stuff out, and it kind of makes the show timeless, because what that jacket cost in 1991, this episode came out February 1991.
Yeah.
And if they said the price then, you'd be like, well, that's nothing. So at least they make the joke more timeless by not actually coming out and saying it.
Yeah. And then it kind of makes you in your own head. I'm like, what's expensive for a jacket?
And what's expensive to you or me? Like, different people will find different things expensive. So I like how they did that. They just kind of leave it open to the imagination what you think expensive is.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're like, he's debating on whether or not to get it. It's like, hey, what's money? What's money? And at that point, the sales associate walks back. He's like, looks wonderful on you. So he's getting all from all sides that it's like, he just, it looks great. Get it. It's a great jacket. And then the only kind of downside is what they notice. They point out right away. It's got that weird pink candy stripe lining inside the jacket. So it's a brown kind of suede jacket. And then it's got the candy stripe pink lining on it.
But I think that you or I would be more likely to buy the candy striped jacket over that brown suede one.
Yeah. I think
it just worked.
Yeah. It's a cool look. And then, but yeah, Jerry's like, oh, what's the big deal? It's on the inside. I can always change it out later. So, in the next scene, you see him in the apartment wearing the jacket. So, he bought it.
Yeah.
Everybody
wearing the jacket in his pajamas, watching television.
Watching TV.
And when I saw that, I said to Ashley, I said, this is when Brian could have brought up his new boots that he wore around all day.
Yeah.
In his house.
That's I don't know how many times I brought those things up, but yeah. I didn't spend over $1,000 or whatever
yeah, exactly.
on my boots. But
when I get something new, I would, if I had a new jacket and I was really proud of it, I'd be like, I might wear that around the house for a little bit just to kind of get a feel for it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was out in Texas, I bought a Bass Pro Shop hat. I was wearing it for a couple of days. Just it was
you thought it was Bass Pro. Where's all the guitars?
Yeah. It was like $5. But I'm like walking around. I'm like, there's not a Bass Pro Shop in San Diego or Southern California at all. So I'm just walking around with it. Like, just,
oh, really?
Oh yeah, I fished once out there. Anyways, but I did wear it around the house. Didn't need to wear a hat in the house. But yeah. So he's in the apartment wearing it, and then he goes up to the mirror. And he's kind of just like getting a look at himself, getting the look of the jacket, with the pajamas. And then Kramer comes in as he's looking at himself. It's like Kramer's liking it. It's like good looking jacket. Kramer likes it, and he's like, one line that he said that I liked. It's like, and he says, no, do you think it's me? He's like, it's more you than you've ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's asking, like, wants to know how much it's suede. It's a jacket. How much did it cost? He's kind of hammering on him. And another good line. He's like, well, how much did you pay? I paid what it costs.
Yeah, I paid what it costs.
Yeah. And I like that line. It's like he's kind of embarrassed what he paid for it. And he just doesn't have to tell Kramer. Doesn't want to tell him.
But then Kramer finds a tag on it and he reads the same kind of thing Lane did. They look at the tag and don't actually mention the price again.
Yeah, same thing. He's like, oh, he just like looks at it. He's like, helps himself to like, oh, here's information. Let me just pull it out.
You don't want to tell me, but I'm going to find out anyway because I'm Kramer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's different. I guess I've never paid too much for clothes, or that you never want to tell anybody about it. But I guess have you? I don't think either one of us are one to spend too much money on clothes.
No. For our wedding, I bought a suit for like $125, $150 on sale. Like, and it looked good. I look good in it.
Well, have you ever bought anything that you were like too embarrassed to say how much you paid for it? That you just kind of never mentioned it, or maybe even like a little fib and kind of downplay it. Maybe
not clothing wise. I think when I was younger, buying cars and you got like a bad trade-in value, but you were young and you went to get the new car, I might have not told people what I got for a trade-in and kind of overspent on a new car. But stuff like that, I kind of kept close to the chest, but not clothes. I don't spend money on clothes.
Yeah, I think most of the stuff, I tend to brag about deals, but bad deals. Sometimes if I'm like, for mainly guitar, music equipment, sometimes I'm either too excited, like you said with the car. I'm like, I want to get something new or different, or I'm just desperate and I'm like, I'm getting nothing for it. I need the space or whatever. If I've like moved or whatever, I'm like, I can't just keep dragging this fucking thing around. So I would sell it and I'm like back on it. And I'm like, oh man. Like people who aren't musicians, like a Mesa dual rectifier head. It's a guitar. You plug your amp. It's an amplifier. I think I got like $850 or something for it, or I think a whole. I don't remember what it was. I think a half stack. I sold it, and I think I got maybe $1,200, which nowadays you could sell that like for $2,500. I'm like, like half of the money. I'm like, and so I'm kind of embarrassed. Oh, what'd you sell it for? Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's gone. I sold it for what it sold for.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. So if I'm selling stuff, I usually kind of don't like to say if I didn't get a good deal or get money for it. I don't like to say. So it's almost the opposite of how much I spent. It's how much I got back, which is I don't like.
That's the worst part. You took a loss.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, so they're there. You know, Jerry's still wearing the jacket. Kramer's taking it in how much he spent on it, and then he spots in the corner Jerry's leather jacket.
And this is a total Kramer move here.
he sees it. He wants it. He's like, oh yeah, it kind of like, well, you don't need this whole thing anymore. You got this new jacket. You have to get rid of this. It's all very Kramer, like you said. It's very like about himself, just like what an asshole thing. It's not as much like when you think about it as a joke in the show, but if you had a friend like that, that would suck so much.
Yeah. And we noticed that he has the pinky ring in this scene. I remember we brought up last time.
Oh,
he's wearing a pinky ring, which I noticed. But he's wearing that and he's a chain. And he kind of seems more, I guess we said he seems more creepy than kooky at this point as a character.
Okay.
He didn't become the kooky guy yet.
Opportunistic.
More mysterious than spooky.
Okay. I'm thinking more of like an opportunity guy. He's like, oh, well, there's a chance for a free jacket for me. And then he puts it on now. He's modeling the jacket in front of the mirror. They're both wearing their new jackets.
New jackets together. Doesn't fit their outfit at all.
Yeah. But I just think it's like, Jerry gives it to him. And it's just like, it's very Kramer kind of like, looking out for himself. I'm like,
and good karma for you, he says to Jerry.
Yeah.
Karma's the whole thing for.
So, it's like good karma for you. And then he's going to the, same apartment scene, or same apartment next scene. Jerry's getting ready for the dinner date. He's going with, I didn't mention it before, but he's going with Elaine and her dad, and also George is coming. So they had mentioned that at the clothing store.
Yeah, that was
But now, he's getting ready for the date, or I guess it is a dinner date. But George comes in, so he's coming in. He's singing to himself, a song to himself. Turns out it's
Master of the House from Les Mis.
Yeah. Less miserables.
Less miserables. Brian isn't surrounded by French people like we are.
Yeah. No. No, there's not as much French down here. There's more Spanish.
Yeah.
But it's just it's I'm watching it with the subtitles on just so I catch any little quotes or whatever I want to mention on the show, but it's just funny to see that. I always see that joke and I'm like, I remember for the longest time I see Les Miserables. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? So they say Les Miserables. But anyways, so he's singing that song. He says, oh, it's a song. I saw the play and I can't get it out of my head. So singing it, on the bus, in the elevator, in front of clients. And, I don't know. Are there ever times where you'll get songs just stuck in your head?
This week, specifically, I'll Do Anything for Love has been stuck in my friggin' head and it will not get out. Because Meatloaf.
Okay, yeah.
I guess we usually record 2 weeks ahead. We're recording like 5 days ahead right now.
Yeah.
So it actually is topical right now. Meatloaf died last week.
Mhm.
And that song has just been in my head.
Yeah.
And it won't get out. And it was only interrupted by the song Vaseline by
Stone
Flaming
Temple
Lips.
Pilots, right?
She don't use jelly by Flaming Lips.
Okay.
That's been in my head too. So I get Meatloaf and then I get tangerines and that gets stuck in there for a bit. Yeah.
I get
so I feel his pain.
Yeah, I get this is not even the same level. I get joke songs from the podcast Come Town stuck in my head. And I cannot repeat any of the words that they say on the show. They'll take songs and then they replace them with their own lyrics, and sometimes they're really bad. Like they don't fit even.
If there was room in the world for another Weird Al, I could have a successful music career.
Yeah.
You play a song on the radio, I can't come up with lyrics, but if you gave me a riff and said make up lyrics, I could make that kind of music. But there's not really a market for it.
He was kind of YouTube before YouTube was a thing, with all the parody songs and stuff like that. But yeah. So I get like the joke songs just stuck in my head. But anyways, so George is letting Jerry know. It's like, oh yeah, that's what it's from. And then Jerry's like, oh, here's a little quip for you. Here's a little story for you, George. He's like talking about like, oh, Robert Schumann. He went mad from not being able to get a single note out of his head. He kept repeating it. He said it was like A was the note.
Yeah, I think it was A.
Yeah. And then just to like, freak George out. Just like, well, great. Thanks for telling me that. He's like just going to obsess of not trying to think about that song or sing it. But it's just kind of funny. Jerry's like teasing him about it, and now he just knows how to like poke the bear.
Yeah, he knows how to just rile him up.
Like he knows that that's going to get George riled up. He's like, yeah, just one little thing that we mentioned it to him, and it does stick with him.
Oh yeah, it stays there. He's like, change the conversation, talk about anything. So you can't think of anything but the song now.
Mm-hmm. So now they're Jerry, he puts on the jacket. He's he's like kind of like puts it on, and then George is floored. He's like, this is huge.
Yeah, he's ready to go. He's out the door.
Yeah,
he turns around, shuts the door. He's like, yeah, when did this happen?
It's pretty good. Even Jerry's leaning into it. It's like, oh, he's like, my life's completely changed because of this jacket. He's like, it's confidence booster kind of deal. And I like George's lines, like, I want to say this, in the most heterosexual way possible. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
He says something else, like what the history of staunch heterosexuality. It's fabulous.
An unblemished record of staunch heterosexuality.
Yeah. But it's so he got another fan of the jacket. But now George, he's like, I'm not even gonna ask. You'll tell me. And he's like, kind of says, and like it says that, and then not even 30 seconds go by. He's like, how much did it cost? Like you said, you weren't.
George is the one of the three. Elaine would be like, how much?
Yeah.
And Kramer, how much? Out of being nosy, but George would have to know.
Yeah,
how much.
He just has to know. So he says, I'm not even gonna ask, and then instantly asks about the cost of the jacket, and then he keeps like Jerry doesn't even answer him, and then he goes all the way from asking if it's like what $400, and then like there's just silence from Jerry. He doesn't even acknowledge it or look at Jerry doesn't say a single word. He goes all the way up to 1,000 and then over 1,000. It's like, if you don't answer me, I'm gonna think that you paid over $1,000 for that jacket. And he's yelling, "Oh my god!" Like he's yelling at this point that he goes from 4,000 to he now thinks he spent $1,100, $1,200 on a jacket.
And Jerry just lets him go.
Yeah, he never tells him otherwise.
He could have stopped him.
But as he's like at the bubbling point, bubbling over there, Kramer comes in. He's like, he needs a favor, a solid.
He's a solid.
So he's like, he needs somebody like to sit in his car as it's double parked because he's got to go get some birds. He's like a friend of his or whatever is a magician.
Yeah, he's going to babysit his friend's birds.
Doves, some doves. And so, Jerry and George, they can't because they're going to the dinner with the dad or Elaine and her dad. But it's funny, George, he says like, Wow, man, I'd love to because I've never done anybody a solid before.
So that must have been a new term then, I think.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
people would say that now and you would think of that, but maybe 30 years ago it was just something people didn't.
Mhm.
He's like, I've never done a solid. And had a little smirk like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
So,
I think I say that because of this episode, this show.
probably. Yeah.
I'll say, I'm like, oh, can you do me a solid? Only because of this episode.
Yeah, most likely.
You know, you like say things as a joke, and then you're like, actually, like, it's because, like, you start saying things as a joke, and then it becomes part of your vocabulary. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
And that's definitely one of them. The solid. Anyway,
Like
so,
the Beastie Boys started rapping to make fun of rap, and then they became
Mhm.
some of the most popular rappers. Just,
yeah. So he's like, oh, it's only gonna be 2 minutes, and then it's like Kramer's like, oh, don't worry about it. And as they're leaving, it's like, yeah, 2 minutes to Kramer, it'll take all night. You ever have those friends like, oh, it'll be just a minute? I'm like, no.
with his concept time, he'll live for 2,000 years.
Yeah. For 2 minutes to him. Yeah. He's going to live over 2,000 years. So that's pretty good. So they leave the apartment and then they end up in the hotel lobby and they don't see Elaine. So they're like, okay, well, she's not here. And then neither one of them really wants to go. You can tell.
Yeah.
Just because they're
They're
kind
both
of,
uncomfortable.
because of the dad's reputation of he's a writer, a guy they've never really met. And they're like, okay, well, we don't see Elaine, we should go. Kind of thing. Every chance, like, well, she's not here, let's go. So, okay, Jerry's like, okay, well, let's just go. I think that's him over there. Then they go and just talk to a guy sitting down and they introduce themselves. And then it's like, oh, it turns out to be Elaine's dad. And so,
And he is Joe from Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, okay.
That's Elaine's dad. So, and I thought, because he's like, because you're Mr. Pink. And I'm picturing the pink jacket and he's carrying on the same joke.
Yeah.
Which that would have been filmed at the same time as this episode. Reservoir Dogs came out a year later, so it's probably being filmed at the same time.
Nice. Yeah. See, I haven't seen that movie, so I gotta. That's one.
Reservoir Dogs.
Put it on the list.
Next week we're going to cover Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Screw the Seinfeld stuff.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so they see the dad. He's introduced, and then they're kind of nervous to be around the dad without Elaine, which is they were nervous to be around the dad with Elaine. So now that they're okay,
now she's not there as a buffer.
Absolutely no buffer. So I'm like, okay, what's a couple minutes? So they all right, sit down. He's drinking. So they order some drinks, and they both order non-alcoholic drinks, which is kind of funny. Just
like cranberry juice and then with lime.
2 lime.
Yeah. And tonic water with no ice.
Yeah. George makes it specific of no ice. And the dad, he's like, all right, I'll have a scotch. Plenty of ice.
Yeah.
He looks at him like, who's ordering it with no ice? And then George starts making just bullshit conversation, small talk about ice. He's like, so you like ice? He's like, what? He's like, don't you feel like you get more without it?
I'm not an ice guy as much. Are you an ice guy? Are you a nice guy?
Yeah.
Are you an ice guy?
It depends. I have done this, the Costanza move where you'll get a drink and say no ice, and then you get more of the drink. Because if you're getting a cold drink already, depending on how long you're going to nurse it, like you can, I don't know, coffee, I'm like, I'm probably going to drink that. If it's cold brew coffee, I'm going to drink that bitch pretty quick, like probably 10 minutes. I'm drinking it to get energy. And then, so soda, I put few little ice,
It waters it down way too fast.
Exactly. Because they'll just pack half that fucking drink with ice and then they'll pour the drink in.
If I'm somewhere that has water and I know the water's cold at that restaurant, I ask for no ice because then it's just too cold and you can't really drink it with your meal because it just doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a weak mouth.
I prefer room temperature water for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a whole gallon of it I'm drinking. I don't like ice water that much.
No, I like just water. I think naturally it should just be room temperature too. It doesn't seem like it should be ice cold. Probably not good for your stomach.
But
Anyway.
I've done the Costanza thing, so I'll go get cold brew coffee at a certain kind of coffee. It's more of like a restaurant around my work. I'm like, okay, get a cold brew coffee. It's pretty good. And then, just put, I'm like, hey, you get more coffee without the ice. Because they'll do the same thing. Like I said, they'll put half a fucking thing with ice. And then it's like a little
drop of coffee on top.
splash of coffee. So I'm like, I've gone and I'm like, oh, I'll get way more if I say no ice. It's already fucking cold. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then one guy, he's like, I know your trick. So he left like a third of it not filled.
Oh, really?
He's like, you want no ice? Well, you ain't getting any more coffee, pal. I'm like, this guy's putting a stop to my plan here. I'm gonna put this shop out of business because of how much more coffee I'm getting.
Is it his shop? Is it coffee coming out of his pocket?
No,
what's the deal?
I think he's just a dickhead, but he knows the tricks.
Yeah.
He
wants to show he's smarter than you.
Yeah, he's just like tapping his temple there. I'm on to you, pal. So anyway, so they're there, and it's like after the just bullshit small talk, they're kind of just awkwardly, waiting for Elaine, and then here's some
Alton
more.
has a good move. When George goes to shake his hand, you can tell he doesn't want to shake George's hand, so he coughs into his palm, and then George backs up. And
Okay, yeah.
That is a solid plan right there.
Yeah, no, that was one little one when they first introduced him. Like, hey, I'm George. And I was like,
yeah.
Okay. But they talk about the rain, which is another one. It's like, oh, looks like rain. And then it's like, yeah, that's what they said. Who's they? The dad. I don't need someone to tell me it's gonna rain. I stick my head out the window. He's like negative and has something to say about all the small talk. It's like, what do you want us to say? It's like,
all the standard small talk, he just shuts it down immediately.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell? It's like, exactly. It's like, what the hell do you want us to say?
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't need it. He's like, okay, good. This is going great. He's like, so who's the funny guy? That's another one.
Yeah, who's supposed to be the funny guy?
Yeah. And so it's like, it's just like hostile. It's just like it's like eggshells, but it's like, I don't know, walking on landmines. It's with this guy. It's like,
yeah.
Which he's also like, oh, it's like, oh, he's like, oh, I'm not that funny. It's like, oh, he's funny. And he's like, yeah. And then now he goes and like, yeah, we had a funny guy in Korea. He was a tail gunner. Blew his brains out. Nothing funny.
Brains all over the Pacific.
Nothing funny about that. And then Jerry's like, he's like,
And then they do the peek for Elaine. They look for Elaine. Like, is she here yet?
Yep.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah. As you can tell how awkward they do a good job of being awkward. It's like, oh, she's usually pretty punctual, except when she's late. She's late.
They did
sometimes.
mention on the DVD, because it seemed really natural how they were kind of awkward with them.
Yeah.
On set, one of the butcher knives in Jerry's kitchen, the actor, Richard, I think is his name, he pocketed one of the butcher knives, like he was going to steal it from the set.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of looked at each other. They weren't going to say anything. Then Jerry goes, "What's with the knife there?" And then he took it out of his pocket and he started doing like the American Psycho type of hacking at him. And he was going to steal the knife from the scene, and people thought it was kind of weird. And they were all kind of intimidated by him. So when they were intimidated in the scene, it was kind of a real, like, this guy tried to steal a knife.
Yeah.
So, kind of helped them play their role, I think. And I wonder if he kind of did that as like a method thing without telling them, just make them scared of me before we do our scenes, and then they can be actually scared of me.
That's pretty good. But yeah, it's good. How well they play that off.
Oh yeah.
And then Jerry, he's leaves for the bathroom. He's like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, and because he knows that George knows that like he's doing that just to like, I need to get away from this guy. And then George is like pulling his arm as he's leaving.
Yeah. Yanks his arm out of George's grip.
Yeah. And then so it's just George with the dad. So he's like trying to be like more small talk. He's like, all right. Read one of his books. He's like, all right. It doesn't really go anywhere. I think what does he say? The dad says a critique about it. He's like, oh, it was like drivel or whatever. And George's like, yeah, no, I got that too. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And then George is like, because he's like, oh, you agree that it wasn't good? He's like, George.
He's like, what parts? He goes, the drill parts. He goes, I just realized I got to make a phone call, and then he's out.
He's like, I forgot I got to make a phone call. And he runs away.
Yeah. And when he gets to he said he'd make a phone call. He went to the bathroom. I thought, if this is the lobby, he'll see him going into the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually the lobby of a hotel, you'd see the bathroom kind of there. But if you look in the mirror, this is Eagle Eye Ashley caught this one. In the mirror, there's a payphone behind where they're standing. So there actually is a payphone in the bathroom. Of the
weird.
lobby.
Okay.
Yeah. But behind George, where he's sitting on the couch, there's like a sofa table behind the sofa,
Mhm.
and there's a rotary dial style phone sitting on the table right behind George. So he gets up and walks away from that to go into the
Yeah.
bathroom. But there is a payphone in the bathroom.
Oh, dang. Okay. So
Yeah.
totally, legit.
Yeah.
So, but he meets Jerry in there, and they're both over it. It's like we can't go out there. We're dying out there.
Yeah. We'll just leave.
Yeah. Like, what if we just leave? And then they're like, okay, we just give it 10 more minutes. So, and then, they're both, nervously back at with the dad. And then, the dad asks, like, who'd you call? It's like, why would you ask somebody if you had to make a call, like a personal call? It's like, oh, what was that about? It's like,
It's like he was onto them or something, right? Like,
yeah.
if you use a made up excuse to get away from someone, they start quizzing you on it when you get back. That'd be so awkward.
Yeah. So he's just making shit up. He's like, oh, my uncle has had surgery to see if he's okay. What kind of surgery? I'm like, Jesus, like, let it go.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was it? Somebody at the hotel gives him a note saying that Elaine's going to be late. And then the dad, what is it? Does he go to the restroom or something? Or but he wants to
you
leave.
get the note.
Yeah.
And then
he wants to leave to go to the restaurant, but I think he's going to go to the bathroom first or something. He
he
leaves,
went to the bathroom and then the scene ends.
Leaves the scene. Then George and he wants to. It's like, let's go. It's our time. We got to run.
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty good. There's like any chance they can get away from this guy. It's like, it's just run. Like, what about Elaine? Who cares? But Elaine finally arrives, and then so she got held up doing a solid for Kramer.
Yeah.
With the birds.
Tied the whole episode together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the 2 minutes ended up being over 20 minutes. The car got towed. They were chasing birds down the street. It was complete chaos. The way she tells the story is great because she does this like flapping sound effects, like fluttering. I was like, and then the birds like
yeah, she took her jacket and made the flapping sound. That was probably my best part of that. That showed Elaine's ability to act. Like she just brought the character to life and
retelling the story of her and Kramer. And it's like in the fluttering. I'm like, oh damn, that was pretty good.
When you think of Seinfeld, you think like George, Jerry, Kramer, and Elaine's there. But if it wasn't for Elaine, I don't know if the show would have done nearly as well. She just kind of brings a lot to the table that you don't really notice until you rewatch and think about it. So.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I think I always kind of got that Elaine was such a big part of it because like her standout or her episodes or stories are still pretty good, especially her and like later when she goes with Peterman and Mr. Pitt and stuff like that, and her.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The later episode, she's more of a main. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, already in the second season, she's kind of, a well-developed character. And just like that scene right there, I'm like, oh, that was perfect. Because she does such a great job of just retelling that story. And then she had her hands in the pockets of her coat. And then she does the fluttering. Like that sounded like just like.
Oh, yeah. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I watched with Ashley. She's the same things. Like that was just amazing. So I was like, make a note on jacket flutter for flying doves.
But she's like, oh, I could kill Kramer. It's like, well, why'd you do it? It's like, well, he said he was going to give me a ride or give me a lift. And it's like, oh, the elusive lift. Who could resist?
Yeah.
So I was saving money on a cab probably and all this shit like that. But it ended up like taking so much more time than the 2 minutes that Kramer said.
Exactly.
So maybe they don't know, or Jerry knows Kramer probably more than Elaine. So Elaine's probably, oh yeah, what's the big deal? And then now she's learning more. It's like, oh yeah, that 2 minutes is not 2 minutes.
She's learning who he is.
So the dad comes back. They're all together now, and then they're gonna go to a restaurant.
When the dad comes back, he's like, "Who's the lipstick for?"
Oh yeah. So he's grilling even Elaine. It's like, "Who's the lipstick for?"
Yeah.
We're gonna go to a Pakistani restaurant.
Then you're just pissed off that she works at Pendant Publishing.
Oh yeah, those bastards.
Yeah.
Going to a Pakistani restaurant. He's like, "You ain't afraid of a little spice." It's like the first joke he's made, or kind of like lighthearted thing. You boys ain't afraid of a little spice, are you?
Now, do you think that was Babu's restaurant they were going to down the street?
That'd be good.
You're very, very bad.
Yeah, where he just moves the finger.
Yeah, I'm on camera here. Wiggle my finger. We're not putting video out, but I'm.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm recording the video, so we can put this out. But
There we go. People will see that.
no, yeah, there you get to see our Babu. Me, very bad man. Me, bad man.
Yeah.
Could my mother have been wrong? Anyway,
We'll cover that in a later episode.
yeah, with the Babu episode. Yeah. So the dad comes back. You know, they're all getting ready to leave, and then as they're leaving, they're getting their coats and stuff like that. George is singing the Les Miserables, and then
Yeah.
say pipe down, quiet, chorus boy. Doesn't he say that? He's like pipe down, chorus boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
It does make everything awkward. Everything they do has become awkward with this guy.
yeah. So they, earlier in the episode when they talked about like, oh, it's gonna rain, whatever. It's now snowing, and then that's no good for Jerry because he's wearing the jacket.
Yeah.
And that's bad for Suede. So they got to walk 5 blocks to get there. Or no, he asked like, I was like, oh, we're taking a cab, right? It's like, it's 5 blocks.
Yeah.
So it's like everything is a problem with this guy.
And 5 blocks in New York is nothing. It's like, it's a very short trip.
But, it's snowing. So like George is like, oh yeah. It's like, well, that can't be good for Suede. It's like, oh no, what you can do, flip the jacket inside out. So he's like, oh, good idea.
The candy stripe.
So he's got the pink candy stripe, and then he's out there walking, and the dad's on, what the hell is this? Like it's a joke.
You're not going to walk down the street with me and my daughter dressed like that. You look like a damn fool.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be seen with Jerry if he's wearing that. I'm like, okay. So this one scene here, it made me think of like, fuck the dad, right? Just okay, walk behind him, or you walk ahead of him. Or why didn't George give Jerry his coat?
To go over the coat. Yeah.
To go over that.
Yeah. Because it's George. George only thinks about George.
So those were the 2 things that I thought of. It's like, okay, fine, then I'll go ahead of you.
And this is one of the episodes where I think we knew when we're covering Seinfeld from the 90s, we're going to hit jokes that wouldn't land today. And I'm not sure if the joke was the look of the candy stripe or the fact that a man was wearing pink. But I think today that wouldn't really fly because men wear pink.
Yeah,
It's okay,
pink.
right?
It could be that it's just more clown looking. So maybe he thinks that Jerry's doing a joke. It's like, I don't like that joke.
Yeah, true.
Because I think it looks more clowny than it does just being pink. Because it's pink and purple stripe or something like that. Which, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're trying to be fancy or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing I'm like, why didn't George just, or I would ask George, like, George, give me your coat. Oh, it's cold. Well, tough shit.
Yeah. I'm going to protect this.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Jacket.
Or, I don't know, I could have said like, okay, fine, I'll just follow behind you a block.
Yeah. I'll get a cab, meet you there.
Yeah, or it's just, I guess they're just so nervous about the dad. So he's like, oh, well, it's only a couple blocks. What's the big deal? Anyways.
I just want to make him happy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So so the scene ends. So you can kind of just guess what happened with that jacket. Anyways.
Yeah.
So scene ends. We're back at Jerry's apartment, and then Kramer comes in, and then he needs, some food for the birds. And then he asks specifically, do you have any of those mini Ritz?
Yeah. And that's the
Ritz
thing, like, you got a
crackers.
report from the guy. Every bird has its own diet.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the
But
reasons.
he's asked for mini Ritz. I'm like, he's giving that to all the birds. He
was-
just-
One of the
Rob.
things why it was over 20 minutes long, because the guy was giving him a list of like, every bird has a specific diet, And Kramer's just giving him just crackers. It's like, oh, yeah. Probably
They're
one
birds that eat crackers.
Yeah. Ritz crackers, like buttery, salty crackers.
Yeah.
But it's pretty funny that he asked specifically, do you have any of those mini Ritz? And then Jerry's like, gives like, I'm surprised I do. So he gives him the Ritz bits.
Yeah. And Jerry's wearing like the university sports jacket.
Yeah, he's got like the
leather arm jacket. So
yeah,
Kramer
like
looks
a
"Hey,
like
where's your new jacket?
a Letterman jacket is what he's wearing. It's like kind of
Yeah.
He's like, hey, where's the new jacket? So points to it. He's like, oh man, what happened? It's like, oh, I was out in the snow. It's like, don't you know what snow does to Suede? It's like, I have an idea.
I have an idea.
Oh man. And then Jerry, and then Elaine comes in. That's what it is. Elaine comes in because they're going to go catch a movie. They're going to go out. She was, just making small talk. Oh, my dad, he liked you. He doesn't normally like people. And it's like, oh, no, wow, no shit. Really? Could tell that. And then she's just making small talk. She's like, oh, yeah, my dad, he thought George was gay. So it's like, that's probably one thing you wouldn't really say anymore.
No. No.
It's like, why? Because of all the singing? No, he just thinks everybody's gay.
Yeah.
But.
And then Jerry reminded him of someone from Korea.
Yeah. That's why he liked Jerry.
Yeah.
But yeah, he, Elaine asks like, oh, what about your jacket? And so he, points to it. It's like, oh, no, because Kramer comes out with it. That's what it was.
Yes, wearing the jacket.
Kramer's like, oh, well, that's what it was. I skipped over that part. He's now in the bathroom looking at that, ruined jacket. He's like, same thing with like the leather jacket earlier. Well, you don't want this anymore, do you? You're just going to throw it out. I was like, yeah, you can have it. So he comes out wearing the jacket and Elaine sees it. No, is that your jacket? He's like, because the snow ruined it. It's like, oh, what you should have done is turned it inside out. I was like,
I'll remember that in the future.
Yeah. So it's like kind of like a thing. It's like he tried, he thought of that. It's like everybody's like thinks, it's like when people say obvious shit, you could just tell he was like over it. It's like, yeah, I know about the fucking snow.
Yeah.
And then like I know I could have flipped it inside out, but whatever. But yeah, now Kramer, he's got the leather jacket in one hand and he's wearing the suede one. It's like, oh man, sucks. You
too bad you gave me this one.
Yeah,
too.
that's what it was like. Yeah, too bad you gave me this one too. So Kramer now has 2 jackets. Jerry has 0. So he doesn't even offer to give the old one back.
Yeah,
at all.
Who does that?
He's just an asshole. He's like, I'm keeping both of these jackets. I know how much he knows how much that one costs. And he's just like, well, I'm getting this one for free, and then the last one.
Yeah, I get 2 jackets.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Because he just shrugs like, oh man, I wish there was something I could do. Yeah,
then he exits the room and he opens it up and says, I have to do something about this lining.
Yeah. He points it out. He's like, gotta do something about this line. Yeah, it's pretty good. He's like, Kramer's like, I like it better this way. Ruined.
Yeah, he likes the ruined jacket better.
And then the scene ends and it's the dad driving back to Baltimore in the car, no radio going. He's just singing that song from Les Miserables that George was singing. Master of the house.
Yeah. Now he's got it stuck in his head.
Yeah. So it ends with a stand-up bit, that Jerry's doing about leather and how it gets ruined by the rain. It's like cows getting wet. He's like, we gotta come in. You gotta let me inside. I'm wearing suede.
Yeah. It's all I got.
Yeah. And that's true. I don't think I've owned anything suede, but I'm like, why would you want something that's so expensive and so
sensitive to the elements?
Yeah.
It's a jacket. The jacket's purpose is to protect you from the elements.
And they make suede shoes. Same thing. You're going to be outside.
Yeah, they're on your feet. They're meant to be
closer
taking
to
that stuff.
Closer to puddles and water. It's like, yeah, it seems like a real pain in the ass. I've never owned anything suede. And I think
I don't care to.
I don't think I've ever owned anything that needed to be dry cleaned either, which is another thing in the show that constantly comes up. Is like, always have the dry cleaners. I'm like, huh.
Yeah, not interested.
Well, how would you even clean suede? It seems like would you
the
have
dry
to?
Cleaner?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
If you
must be.
like, oh man, if you spilled something, I would just like, what the fuck is the point of having suede? And I don't even think it looks that great. Right?
No, it doesn't.
Hot take.
If any of our fans out there love suede, we're sorry. But
yeah, I guess.
fans.
Well, I mean, prove me wrong. Like,
Yeah.
the jacket's cool, but I don't think it was like that hot of a jacket. I think his old leather jacket was better looking than the one.
Yeah, like the leather one. Yeah.
Yeah, that looked better. And I'm like, okay. Then the suede one.
We're looking back from 30 years ahead, though.
Yeah. Anyway, so maybe that was the style at the time. So that was my, my take, hot take on suede. You can see
So on the DVD as well, Larry David did a little piece on why he wrote this episode. So he dated Monica Yates. He dated Monica Yates, which is Richard Yates's daughter.
Yeah.
He's an author. He wrote A Revolutionary Road. And when he went on this date to meet the father, he was wearing a suede jacket and it was raining. And they're at a hotel. And then they went from the hotel where they had to drink down the street to eat. And he had the same kind of dilemma, like, what do I do with the suede jacket? I'm meeting the father. And he was an author. He's a big name and he was nervous as well. So all that came directly from Larry David's actual life.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then, so. Because you wonder where would that story come from? But it's actually something that happened to Larry David and they just made it a little bit funnier.
Yeah. No, they probably, just punch it up a little bit. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
That sucks. Just ruining your jacket just for a person that you'll probably never meet again.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny because like he dated Elaine and never met the dad, but he meets the dad as a friend, and I don't think he ever comes up again in this series.
No, it seems like he should have been a recurring character, but I don't know. But maybe it's because he tried to steal a knife. They just didn't call him back.
Yeah, and you never meet Elaine's mom either.
No.
So just George's parents, Jerry's parents, and then for
Kramer's mom.
Yeah.
Because we find out Kramer's first name, but that's a spoiler. We're not going to tell you Kramer's first name.
Can't spoil it.
That's seasons away.
A 30-year-old spoiler.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a fun one. It was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode.
Yeah. I think we should get on out of here. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good. If anyone wants to follow us along on Instagram, see what's going on, what's new with us. If you want to follow us on Twitter, don't bother just yet because there's nothing going on our Twitter.
But you can follow if you want.
You can follow us.
Yeah.
We're on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
This video should be coming up on YouTube, and we're working on Brian's scene is already set. He's got good video. I'm working on mine, so maybe next week I'll have some better video going on here.
I like it. Yeah.
So there we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, Instagram, YouTube are the main ones. And then if you wanted to rate us on Apple Music or Spotify, you can hopefully give us 5 stars. I think it'll help people discover the show. Tell some friends about it. And
write a review. We'll read it on the episode.
That's it. All right. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Goodbye now.